Smash is currently sitting at 85 characters on its roster, including both Echo Fighters and DLC characters. With any fighting game with a roster size that great, we're gonna see a lot of different archetypes throughout the course of the series, and this is definitely true when looking at the Ultimate roster. We have brawlers, grapplers, hit and runners, rushdowns, the list can go on and on. But the main archetype that I want to talk about in this video is the one that I feel has generally seen the most flaws throughout the lifespan of Smash Ultimate. And those flaws have been wildly more apparent in the current online era of the competitive scene. Zoners. What are they? Why are they flawed in Smash? And what should the patch team do to make them more tolerable? So before we begin with this video, I should probably explain what a zoner actually is first. Firstly, let me clarify that similarly to a grappler not being defined that way because of a good grab game, a zoner isn't simply a character with a good projectile. This just means that Mario has a good grab, and this just means that Ryu has a good zoning tool. The moves themselves don't make them zoners, it's how those moves coincide with the rest of their kit. So getting off of that, what we can really define zoners as is a character that plays at a distance against the opponent where they're able to hit their foe, but their foe is unable to hit them. This distance can be anywhere from mid-range, which is the game plan of a good amount of sorties, or from far range, which is the game plan of characters with multiple projectiles. The flaw in their game plan generally spawns from their inability to fight their opponents from close range, and the characters they struggle against are ones with tools that allow them to get into that range. They also tend to struggle with characters that can zone much harder than they can. For example, a sortie may be able to zone from mid-range, however they struggle to play that game against characters who can zone from far range. Let's take an example of this concept just to show you exactly what I mean. Here we have Marth. Marth is a zoner that plays at mid-range successfully due to his disjointed hitboxes allowing him to play at mid-range, and the tippers at the end of the hitboxes rewarding him for playing at mid-range. You can see that he does follow the weaknesses of a zoner as well. If he plays at close range, he'll usually be at a disadvantage with the opponent, since his sour spots deal significantly less damage and knockback compared to his tippers, something Marth needs to maintain his advantage state after successfully winning neutral. This same concept can be seen through a different approach in Hero, where his moves are all very slow and laggy from close, however from a further distance his neutral becomes much stronger. You can also see this in just regular zoning tools that non-zoners have. Here we have Ryu's Shakunetsu, which is an incredible zoning tool from far away, but when used from close range is very punishable on shield. All of these traits correlate to what can be considered zoners in a fighting game. And now that we're finished explaining what a zoner is, let's talk about why they aren't very well designed in Smash Ultimate. Now, let's actually look back at what I said regarding zoners as an archetype, and then look at random zoners that are present throughout Smash Ultimate to see if it all adds up. Zoners do very well at a certain distance depending on the character, but struggle when they're up close and personal with the opponent. Alright, let's see who are the characters that actually fit this design philosophy and are well designed on top of that. Okay, so we have Duck Hunt. So when Ultimate first came out, it became wildly more apparent that one of the biggest changes to how the engine works is its approach to many moves safety on shield, mainly aerials. There was a massive increase in the amount of safe aerials characters had across everyone on the roster, and it was actually really fun to mess around with. So many characters had much better utility with their aerials, and it led to better combo strings, confirms, and changes in neutral interactions. However, there was a massive problem with this change. Recall that I said everyone had these changes, not just characters who would be using those safe aerials at close range with their opponent. This includes characters who already have the ability to zone you out from far away. Along with that, a lot of zoners in this game also have burst options that allow them to escape out of close range situations much easier than they should. So you have characters with good boxing tools up close because moves are universally safe on shield in this game, who also have good burst options to avoid pressure when you do get in close range, while also having zoning abilities that are just as good as they previously were in other titles. It doesn't make any sense from a design perspective at all. You got characters who excel at keep away, but when you do get in close range, they still do well? To explain this problem better, let's take Rob, a character who gets a lot of hate in the competitive scene for this game. Rob has a very good zoning game, being able to keep you away using both his gyro and laser. Now you may be thinking, oh, so you should just rush him down in order to beat him, right? And see, that would be a plausible thought, if not for the fact that his close range game is also incredible. Fast and massive aerials, a good grab, and amazing normals, with one of them being a contender for one of the best grounded normals in the game. And this isn't even an occurrence with just Rob. Youngling, amazing projectile game, being able to string combos from far away on top of having incredible frame data. Pac-Man, incredible projectiles that keep you away from him at all times. but when you do get in, you have to deal with his amazing dash attack that's invincible on startup and is unpunishable for the majority of the cast. Snake can set up traps and zone well with his grenades and C4, making him very good from full screen. This is Snake's dash attack, and look, I'm not trying to say that all zoners should have these tools gutted from them. Obviously, I wouldn't want a character who zones the entire game and has next to no options at close range. I just feel like they should be worsened considering the circumstances of their archetype. Velvet is a zoner in them's Fightin herds. She also has a pretty decent CQC that is invincible, plus on block, and can be comboable on hit. Here's the difference between options like Pac-Man dash attack, Rob down tilt, Young Link, and this move. This one actually has limits to how it's used. She can only use it if she has resources, and even then the move is risky because it's very punishable if you jump over it, and it uses up tools that you need to be using in neutral. This is not something that applies to half the zoners' amazing CQCs in this game. Now, you may be asking, well, there's gotta be at least some characters that don't have this problem in their character design, right? And you would be correct. However, most of these characters have other issues that range from character-specific problems to exaggerated design flaws that make them unfun to fight and unfun to play. For example, let's take another character I've seen a massive amount of hate for, Min Min. Min Min's design, unlike the other aforementioned characters, is not bad because her close-range tools are good along with her far-range tools. Her problems in design come from how exaggerated her close-range and far-range tools are. Let's say you're fighting a character where they die in one hit to any of your moves, be it a jab, back air, or up smash. However, in exchange, they're able to take your stock in one move as well, be it a jab, back air, or up smash. The problem with this matchup is that it's no fun for either person because one person is going to be losing the game way too early. It's either no fun for the opponent or no fun for the guy playing the character. The thing about Min Min is that on a spectrum of neutral where what I just described is on the far left and fighting someone like Pit is on the far right, Min Min is way further to that described character than most everyone on the roster. Except like Luigi or something. She either has no fun getting her horrible disadvantage exploited way too hard, or the opponent has no fun getting zoned out way too hard by her good zoning tools to compensate. And this philosophy applies to way too many zoners, although it's to a lesser extent. Byleth's landing options are near non-existent and her movement feels much worse compared to other Ultimate characters, but her advantage state is so good that depending on the character, you can just die at 50 for doing something as simple as recovering. Korn may have a horrid disadvantage with horrible landing options and generally bad airspeed, but if he hits you with a fair once, you can die at such early percents. So many of these zoners have incredibly good advantage states that are balanced with god-awful disadvantage states to a point where they become unfun to fight and unfun to play as well, and it just feels bad. And then you have the zoners that have issues with specific problems in their kit. They don't fit into either category that I just talked about, however they do still have problems that need addressing. Marth and Hero are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. Remember when I was talking about Marth's design and how well made it was for a zoner and his archetype? Yeah, that talk was in theory. Marth would be a well-designed zoner who gets rewarded for playing keep away but gets punished for playing at close range if his tippers actually worked. Most of the time they're too inconsistent to actually be plausible in the current metagame, which leads to him feeling like how he feels at close range even when he's successfully playing keep away. As you can probably tell, this leads to Marth not being very good. And that's a shame considering I really like Marth's design and how he plays, and it's unfortunate that playing him properly leads to unsatisfactory results that are simply not due to the player's own actions, but rather the character being problematic in his own right. And Hero's problems mainly spawn from his inaccessibility to people outside of the language used in one's own tournament. Because there are no visual symbols to determine what spells he is about to use aside from pure language, those that are foreign from the language spoken at a tournament they've entered lose the ability to comprehend what Hero is about to throw out, which makes a lot of his tools much better as a result. Alright, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about how we can fix them to make them better. This section isn't going to be as long as the other two sections because it's really not that hard to fix the designs of zoners. For starters, the general blocking tools that zoners have should be made worse so that it's easier to actually deal with them from a close range, something they should struggle with by design. Make their close quarter moves less safe than their zoning tools, give them less reward for trying to play their character way too close to the opponent, and reward them for actually playing keep away like their archetype dictates them to do. Because as of now, the majority of zoners play the game of we win neutral interactions off playing keep away, and we can still do decent if we don't even do that, and that doesn't make sense from a design standpoint at all. Next, for zoners that have wildly bad disadvantages or neutrals that are remedied by an amazing advantage, worsen the advantage for some of these characters and better their disadvantage so it's more fun to use and more fun to fight. For example, making Violet's up B spike and damage output slightly worse while also making her faster and giving her less lag on her moves would allow her to have a substantially better neutral and disadvantage while still retaining a decent advantage that isn't incredibly annoying for the player that's fighting her. It makes it more fun for the player against the character and more fun to play as the character, since you're not sacrificing stupid amounts of weaknesses for insanely annoying to deal with strengths. And finally, just some small changes to other characters can make some zoner designs really well made and intelligently crafted. Make Marth's tippers more consistent at the tip of the sword, so players feel rewarded for actually hitting them. Give hero spells from command selection graphics so you can actually determine what they are doing without the need to understand the competitor's native language. Fix the hitboxes on Simon and Richter's moves so that they're actually rewarded for hitting those moves. And also change one or the other to make the two distinct from each other, but that's a whole can of worms for another video. Now, what was the purpose of this video? The point of this whole discussion wasn't to discredit zoner mains who play their character. I main one of these characters, so I don't think it would make sense to discredit zoner mains as a whole anyways. Obviously, you can play whoever you want on the roster, it doesn't matter to me and it shouldn't matter to anyone else. A competitor shouldn't be focused on how well designed their character is in terms of how fighting games should work. In a competitive setting, they should only be thinking about winning, and I don't want to discredit their work by blaming their character. All I want to do is talk about the best possible solutions for making this game's competitive scene the best it can be in my opinion. Look, I love Smash Ultimate, it's my favorite fighting game of all time, and it's one of my favorite video games of all time. But I understand where its problems lie, and I would like for them to be fixed so that this game can be even better than it already is. Recognizing problems in modern games isn't something to complain about for the sake of complaining. I do this to see improvements for said games in the future. But anyways, thanks for watching the video. If you'd like to support me in any way, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I want to try and upload a lot more content, and I really enjoyed talking about the game I compete in the most, so I might do more of these if this video does well. You can also follow my Twitter, where I make art semi-frequently, or follow my Twitch, where I stream almost every day in the afternoons. And it's mostly fighting game content like Ultimate. Finally, you can join my Discord server to get updates about all of this and talk to more people that I've met through my Twitch and YouTube. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.